actually in Bali, they don't get them.
They put in
Sorry, they don't get them in Bali.
so
Oh,
told
okay.
about this.
Oh, okay.
They weren't going to.
That's
We got everyone here. Okay,
We'll get going. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's ordinary council meeting. I declare the ordinary meeting of 30 October 2024 open at 9 a.m. I advise members of the public that this meeting is being live streamed in accordance with council standing orders. Councillors and staff are reminded of their responsibilities under the respective codes of conduct, both inside the council meeting and when dealing externally on behalf of council. On behalf of Whitsunday Regional Council, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We recognise their deep, enduring connection to country and we extend our respect and gratitude for their wisdom and culture. Welcome councillors, WIC staff, members of the public and the media. Item number one, apologies, leaves of absence. We've got no recorded apologies or leaves of absence. Item number two, condolences. Do we have any councillors that wish to acknowledge any recently deceased members of the community? Councillor Collins.
Yes, through the Mayor, I'd like to, obviously everyone's fully aware of the tragic incidents that have happened in the last month or so around Proserpine, and unfortunately some of the victims have had close ties to council staff. Also, I'd like to offer my condolences to Councillor Simpson on the passing of his mother, Bessie. It was a lovely service on Monday at the church. It was great. Bessie was well known throughout the community, as the Simpson family is, and I'd like to go on for hours talking about Bessie, how wonderful she was to so many people in the area, and even my own daughters junior golf and that over the years. So I'd just like to pass those condolences on to Gary and to all the past people in the region through these accidents, and offer our sympathy, and we're all thinking of you.
No further? Yeah, look, I think we do need to recognise there has been a significant number of deaths in the community over the past month, including affected families of former council employees. So on behalf of council, we pass our condolences on to them. On behalf of council, we'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to all recently departed of the Whitsunday region and offer our sincere condolences to their families and loved ones. Can I get you all please to stand for a minute of silence? Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, next item is our Junior Elite Athletes presentation, which is a highlight of our meetings. Council provides financial support for junior elite athletes who participate in a representative competition at a regional, state and national level. The grant is provided to applicants by council to assist in meeting the costs associated with participating in a representative sports program. Today we have some junior elite athletes joining us to be recognised for their outstanding achievements.
Mayor Collins, Lily hasn't made it, unfortunately.
Lily hasn't made it? Oh, that's unfortunate. So the first one I've got is Shaylee Needler. Is it right?
Yeah.
Shaylee? Congratulations. The second one is Declan DeShira. I've met you before, Declan. You've recently won the school award at St Cath's for sports excellence, so well done. And our third is Adelaide Sanders. Congratulations, Adelaide. Can we please give these outstanding young athletes a round of applause? Smile, kids. Okay. we had some other athletes who were unable to attend the presentation today. As mentioned, Lily Sainsbury, who Queensland Country Rugby Union Championships. Don Algie, North Queensland Cross Country Championships and the Queensland Short Course State Swimming Championships. Nyla Brown, North Queensland Softball Championships. Kurt Vella, International Miniature Bull Riders Association World Finals. Kayla Bella, National Youth Touch Football Championships. Lillian Kelly, Volleyball Australia Malaysia Development Tour. Lacey Scott, Junior State Age Netball Carnival. Can we please give these absent recipients a round of applause? Okay, next item is confirmation of the prior minutes. Move Councillor Collins, second Councillor Wright. Is there any discussion on this item? No. I'll put that. The Council confirms the minutes of the ordinary meeting held 25th of September 2024 to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Item number 4, business arising. We had some questions from the previous meeting. Would you like to speak to that, Mr. CEO?
So we received 3 questions. Those questions are on the tabled in part of our minutes process, and the response to those questions is also tabled through that process.
Item number 5, mayoral minute. Look, I think I just wanted to acknowledge the recent state election on the weekend and offer congratulations to our new Premier, David Crisafulli, as well as our re-elected state members for Whitsunday, Amanda Cam, and state member for Burdekin-Dale last. Item number 6, notice of motion. We have no notices of motion for the meeting. Item number 7, deputations. We have no deputations. Number 8, petitions, questions on notice. We've received no questions on notice. Item number 9, questions from the public gallery. No questions. Item number 10, so first of our reports, which is the committee report 10.1, the Audit Risk Committee meeting minutes, 17th September 2024. Move Councillor Wright. Second, Councillor Collins. Would you like to speak to that, Director Bradshaw?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the Audit Committee of September went through the priorities guide. It looked at the financial reports and update on the asset management strategy. It looked at the annual revaluation of assets for the 2025 year, and particularly those assets under focus are landed improvements for this financial year. It received an audit in relation to road maintenance performance contracts undertaken by Council. It reviewed the compliance checklists that are issued through the state government, looked at the draft annual report, received an update in relation to Council's insurance activities, and an update in relation to Council's cyber security activities as well. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, it was just a standard meeting.
Any comments, questions, councillors? Okay, the motion the Council endorse the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit Risk Committee meeting held on 17 September 2024 are put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.1, request to extend currency period, development permit for operational works, title works, and works including civil works at Shute Harbour Road, Shute Harbour, or Shute Harbour Marine Development.
I move to table this pending further information. There's a lot of very grey areas in there, and I would like some clarification on those particular areas, particularly the access and when they're going to commence work. There's a myriad, and I just don't want, I'm not anti it, I just don't want us to end up holding the bag like they are up in Shinbrook. I just want some more clarification on whether the properties will be able to be insured, which I doubt very much with the heights and the new sea levels. Most of the studies were done over a decade ago, Councillor.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, almost 20 years ago. I think we're entitled to have some up-to-date ones on that, because it won't be main roads that get blamed. It won't be the state government that gets blamed. It'll be us at this table. So I would just like to table this, and perhaps they could come into a briefing session and tell us the full story.
Okay, so we've got a move to table. You want to second that? Yep. I guess just looking at the matter at hand, which is an extension to the operational works permit. I'm hearing some of the issues you've said, but given we've got activity already occurring out there, I'm wondering how those issues affect the actual operational works permit, given we're not here to actually approve the development. Councillor Monk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had some discussions with planning about this. There's been some verbal clarification, but this actually comes down to the intersection with Shute Harbour Road. There is a state government condition over that it's dual access out onto Shute Harbour Road. The one that's in this operational works approval is only single lane, and that deals with the whole construction plus full stage 1 fully operational marina and 25 residential lots will be under what we approve here today. What I've read in the Coordinator General's report is over 42,000 truck movements at 171 vehicles per hour to construct this. So I think that intersection really needs to be right. Even if it's going to be upgraded at some point in the future,
Do it now.
we still have to get that right before we move forward. So I'm just saying that we table it, we get this clarification, we just make sure that the levels of engineering that we're approving today are clear. If you come to the submission from the applicants, they are saying under the new structure and directives, they are looking at design elements and changes. So I think that could be clear for us before we actually just extend what is already an extended approval with the COVID extension, and just make sure that companies change structure. The investors apparently have moved on and changed, so I think but my main priority here is that intersection. I think that's the safety issue for us.
Councillor Finlay?
Yeah, it's really fair for the question for the director of planning. So if we do happen to want to change the original conditions of this operational permit, can we do that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my advice to you is that no, a lot of the conditions have been put on by the Coordinator General and basically sent to Council to say these are the conditions that are required to go on the operational works. So there's very little room to change the conditions. The option, if Council wanted to go down that path, would be to deny the extension, and then they would have to come back in again. The question is what happens to those activities or the areas that seeking further information, and how that impacts on the approval, given that the original operational works was given and has also been extended.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, through the Mayor. Director Neil, just hearing Councillor Clay's concerns regarding the intersection, is there, if we do approve this today, we move forward and approve it, is there any levers to address the intersection element?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there is in a cooperative sense, but not necessarily change the wording on the conditions that we have in front of us. We have had discussions with Main Roads as a result of the conversation with Councillor Bowman, and we've sought clarification on that. And Matt Toomey's been talking to Councillor Bowman in that regard. So it would be raising the concerns and looking at the traffic management approach to controlling those matters.
Sorry, just so I'm not sure whether 100% got that. So that means that we do have some, I don't know, hold on, like we can look at the traffic movements if it is approved?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if Council is concerned about the traffic movements, then the only way to really change the conditions would be to deny the extension, so it then lapses.
Yep.
Then it would come in again, and in that process we would be having to check our ability to change the conditions to take that aspect into account, as far as all the traffic movements would have been considered originally. 171 vehicle movements an hour, one every 20 seconds, I'd suggest that's a little bit overstated, but again, it's going to require some clarification.
So is it likely that if we do table this today, that the state will listen to us on this particular matter?
It's not so much a matter for the state for the operational works because it's council's responsibility. So it's up for council to determine the extension, yes or no. If yes, well, away we go and we talk to the proponent and say we still have some concerns over the traffic issues. Please tell us what you're going to do to take into account if you action the development there. If it's refused, then we'll do that because the applicant will have to come back with a new operational works application. So we'll do that research.
Thank you.
Yes. So they've got consent at the moment until February 2025, is that correct, Neil?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there are a variety of approvals. Some last until 2054, some last until March 36. So
The above consent will expire on the 15th of February 2025. So if we were to table this and at the moment say no and table it, are we able to discuss with them what their intentions are with the traffic before we come back to council? Or
yes, sorry, Mr Mayor, if the matter is tabled, it sits quietly. It's not a yes and it's not a no, and we can sort that
so you
information.
can look into and discuss with them what their council's issues are?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
I just think it would be beneficial if they could come into one of our briefing sessions, let us know what their intentions are, you know, rather than a piece of paper. That's all. And I'm not saying no to it. just want some clarity.
Councillor Finlay.
Yeah, for the Mayor, I support Councillor Clay and Dan on that, and I think as a new councillor, I'd like to be briefed on the whole project and just get more awareness of it.
Councillor Simpson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll just a comment. It concerns me that they already have the operational works plan in place, and to table it, as long as it's not tabled indefinitely and that it lapses, because I'd hate for us to get in the way of a development that's already approved and fairly major one, and probably neither here nor there with it, but it's probably much needed as well. And just in the past we've tabled things, it's already approved. That's what concerns me, as it may lapse. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've already raised this with planning. They have put in the extension application before it lapsed, so we are able to approve that any time in the future, and they've met the Planning Act by putting it in before it lapsed. A decision is up to us. They've said within this that works this year are unlikely before wet season or anything. They still have environmental approvals and offsets to set a whole range of things, so I don't see where a sticking point. But the condition I've raised is actually a state government condition. It's not one that we have power over. That's why I'm just asking for written clarification so we can be sure that we're meeting our requirements, because we are the assessment managers for this. As Councillor Clifford said, what happens here comes back on us because we are the assessment managers. And as I said, 2011, Port Hinchinbrook got devastated, and we've been dealing recently with their mayor and councillors at the Coastal Leaders Forum, where they're still reaching out for help 13 years later to clean up that marina. So I do think we really want to be sure this will sit here. If it all ticks all the boxes, we move along. If the most appropriate thing to do is to reassess the operational works before they start digging, then we'll look at that and decide if that's the path we want to go down. But for today, I think we should be sure before we do something that's not consequential to the overall outcome, but is very important for the safety of our road network. Thank you.
I don't think I completely agree with you, Councillor Bowman. I think the item we've got here for discussion today is around extension of operational works permit. We're not here to judge the project, and that sits within the state realm, and I think those approvals also sit within the state realm. Director McGuffin, is there anything within our, I guess, the conditions of our operational works permit where they haven't met the conditions or haven't satisfied the conditions.
Not as yet, no, Mr. Mayor.
All right, any further comments or discussion on this one? Councillor Wright?
Thank you, through the mayor. Just finally, yeah, I don't want to hold up this development. Like, I think this is, really good for that area. And yeah, if we can get away with not tabling it today and make a decision and then have those discussions with them, I think that if we've got a good relationship with them, I think we should do that if that's possible.
All right, well, we'll take the motion to move to table the item to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Okay, the motion to table is lost, and we'll go back to the original item. Would you like to actually speak to this one? Actually, I'll actually seek a mover first, sorry. Move Councillor Simpson, second Councillor Wright. Would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just checking whether we've got the presentations. As councillors will be aware, it's the request to extend the currency period for the operational works. I think everybody knows where it is. We do have a locality plan. It's just before you get to Shute Harbour and the council's marina development facility down there. It's a community. Wrong one. Yep, beauty. Yep, so the yellow is representation of water at the moment, so it's the lease that sits underneath that. It has to be on the right hand side as you go down towards Shute Harbour. There have been signs up that provide an idea about where the locale is for the development. Next one. So as Councillor Bowman and Clifford mentioned this morning, it goes back to the 1980s and 1990s. There has been a lot of investigation and assessment, and approvals were given by the state and the Commonwealth in 2013 and 2014 respectively. And in 2017, Council entered into an infrastructure agreement with the proponent for the provision of water, sewer and wastes at that time, which was a requirement to proceed with the development. Council also issued a preliminary approval to the planning scheme, and that was the development code that sits over the establishment of the layout, the design and the components within the development. The operational works in 2019, as we said, and an extension given in 2021. There has been an extension of approvals across the state by the Minister, and basically the request to extend the approval, the operational works approval, came in with insufficient time. Originally, they wanted it extended to the 30th September, a matter that Councillor Bowman raised was that it should have been the 16th of August, which was when the Department of Resources gave the landowner approval to extend, so that has been changed in the recommendation. Thanks, Taylor. As we said, the first operational works and the extension, first extension was provided under delegation. The Planning Act does allow Council to consider any matters. Certainly any changes to the legislation in that time is a matter for consideration. We've looked at it, we don't think that there's been monumental or relevant changes to the planning scheme. The proponent has looked at it, and certainly in their submission they agree with that. They want to obviously continue because it's a substantial development in the area. They have significant pre-sales, so they are confident that the proposal will proceed, notwithstanding it's taken a long time from gestation till now.
questions of the director? Councillor Bowman?
Thank you. In the application that they put in 2018, there's some reference when Port Airlie had to build a boat ramp and the parking and give that over to the public. They offered $2.5 million towards development of the boat ramp and parking in Chute Bay. Just in the conditions and the infrastructure agreement, I haven't seen any mention of this $2.5 million, and as we well and truly know, $2.5 million in 2018 has pretty much doubled today. I think with the recent state election promises towards money going into that development, we'll see it advancing. I'm just wondering, with the mention on page 798 of the application, do we actually have a commitment to that funding? And if we are giving this extension, we'll clarify that those funds will be coming forward.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of the status of that, Councillor Bowman. I'm more than happy to investigate that further and come back to council on that. If it's a matter contained in the development, then it will roll with the approval. So if it's relevant, it's a matter that we will pick up when the development starts.
Just a quick follow-up. If we don't have that in the conditions or the infrastructure agreement, how are we?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if it's not in there now, we're not here to include it in there, but happy to take it off circuit and investigate it and come back to council with what we found and what the relevance of it is, where it sits.
Just so, if we approve this today, we don't have that in the conditions. If we didn't approve this today and they came back, that would be on the table for a fixed condition.
Mr. Mayor, it's either in there or not. We're looking to extend an approval that has been in place for several years. All I can do is say to you is that we will investigate it and come back.
Anyone else like to speak for the motion? Against?
No? Okay,
We'll put that to the vote.
the motion that council approve the request to extend the currency period for the development permit for operational works as per the report. Put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against?
Could I please be recorded as being against?
Sure. The motion is carried 5-2 with division letting Councillor Clifford and Councillor Bowman. Okay, next item, 11.2, development permit for high impact industry resource recovery facility at 824 Chute Harbour Road, Mount Marlow.
I'd like to declare a declarable conflict of interest across a couple of years with the invitations to the Hillary-sponsored Bowen Cup. I've surpassed, with tickets for myself and my lovely lady, I believe I've surpassed the $500 amount. I've recorded that in and put in a declarable form for today. With the declarable conflict of interest, I do believe I could stay in the room. I think we all go to a lot of community events. I put a retail value on the tickets, but of course, as councillors, we stay sober. I drive home. I can't say I'm getting full value out of the marquee tickets as some other people enjoying themselves up there. So I would like to put it to the vote around the room that I be allowed to stay for this decision.
Okay, noting Councillor Bowman's declarable, I'll put his request.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I too have an interest, but I won't be voting, but I'll speak in a minute.
All right, so just on Councillor Bowman's declarable, put that to the vote to remain in the room. Those in favour? So that is, I need a mover and a seconder. I'll move Councillor Collins and second Councillor Clifford and put that to the vote once again. So that is carried 5-0. And to you, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have an interest. I don't believe it's either, because I don't believe I've reached that $500 threshold. But just a couple of topics that I just wanted to put on the table. The the proponent is my neighbour, so I just want to put that out there. And also, for the last 2 years, have been gifted 2 tickets to the Hillary Bowen Cup race marquee. And so I would like the councillors to let me stay in the room if that's possible. Because I don't feel that I have either, but just putting it out there.
Councillor Wright, can I have a
Just
move?
comment on that, please.
What's that?
I'll just make a comment on that,
What's
if
that?
I may. Councillor Wright, as well, I understand it, Hillary's is a business, like a family business with several people involved. You may live beside one of them. I don't think it's an issue personally. There you go.
Did you drink?
Okay, so regarding the matter of Councillor Wright's request to remain in the room, I'll be mover and move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Collins. Put that to the vote. Those in favour? And carried 5-0. Thank you. Okay. For the motion, back to the original item 11.2. Moved Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Collins. Director McGuffin, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Presentation, please. Mr. Mayor, it's defined as a resource recovery facility, a high impact industry, Shute Harbour Road, Mount Marlow, and as already identified, the applicant is Hillary Investments. The site has been a quarry since 1970. The land zone rural, access from Shute Harbour Road. It's in a typical rural area. It's well screened. You wouldn't readily know when you're driving past that it is a quarry. The resource recovery facility aimed to divert useful waste at the end of life from landfill, so it'll be a positive recycling facility. It will receive goods such as concrete, timber, glass, metal, brass, gyprock, things like that. They will be sorted on site. There will be some non-recyclable materials that will also be transferred off-site. And all this will be done from the existing location while the existing quarry remains active. Might be a little bit hard to see, particularly the notes on the plan, but the map and the plan shows how the site is going to be managed and operated. The turning facilities are provided to show that the heavy vehicles are able to get on the site and manoeuvre well enough. There was one submission opposed to the development as far as the access location was concerned. The matter was, in response, the matter was reviewed by Main Roads, who were comfortable with the existing access provisions. So that's been deemed acceptable. The issues and considerations that we've given to it are the suitable land use co-located with a quarry. Approval has been given by the Department of Environment for the environmentally relevant activity. The environmental impacts will be well managed. The benefit, of course, is that it is an existing quarry, so many of the stormwater, noise and emissions issues are well covered, and there is limited, if any, impacts expected to adjoining land uses. So the recommendation before you is to approve subject to conditions.
Thank you, Director. Probably just a question, that section of Shute Harbour Road just had a reseal recently following, I think we did have a serious accident there. So the right-hand turn-in heading that way, is that new or was that always there?
As I understand it, Mr. Mayor, it's always been there. That little bit of road has recently been resurfaced and line marked, but I also understand where the accident occurred, the quarry wasn't in operation.
Any questions of the Director? That's all right.
Thank you. Just a comment, Mr. Mayor. Look, these type of things that come to the table, I think, are really exciting. It's something new and positive for our region, and having that recycling facility, I'm not sure if there is anything else like it in the region, but I think it's great, and I want to see this move forward. So fully support it today.
That's done.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do agree. I understand the co-location, especially with the weighbridge as an asset, things like that. I do know the intersection there, the recent road works. I think we have the vehicle movements there as it is. Probably my one question is more to Director Jason, just with rating categories on this. So be under quarry now, going to heavy industry, and the entire categorisation changes for the entire land.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Look, we have listed a rates review for this financial year as well, so when the land use does change in his operation, that will trigger a rating category review, and probably hard to answer at this point as to what that might look like. There may well be a specified category that relates to resources and recovery centres, but we'll evaluate that with the other land uses in the rating strategy.
Any further comments, speaking for or against? No, I'll echo Councillor Wright's sentiment there. I think the initiative, we all know the challenges in the waste space at the moment, so I think seeing a business take a step, particularly in the construction waste space, to start to divert some of these materials away from landfill towards a more circular economy driven purpose, I think is supportive of the vision we want to have going forward. So I think very, very good. I'll take the motion to the vote. The council approved the development application for material change of use. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Now, item 11.3, proposal to make subordinate local law, amending subordinate local law number 1 of 2024.
I just like it noted, I've got a home-based business, and I mentioned it at briefing where I don't feel I have a declaration of interest. So I'll leave it up to the council.
No issues? Okay, can I have a mover? Councillor Wright. Second, Councillor Collins. Director Wright, would you like to speak to that, please?
Yep. Mr Mayor, councillors, when the change was made to local law number 1 with the prescribed activities to include short-term accommodation, it captured all short-term accommodation. The intent of this amending local law is basically to start the process to remove a number of operations, I'll say, because as time has gone on with the short-term accommodation, it's what we are actually trying to capture are residential dwellings that would typically be used for long-term residential accommodation, but are being used for short-term accommodation of visitors and travellers, and therefore taking away from any of those that were wishing to rent or buy for long-term. And given the housing situation that we have here, trying to turn it around just to capture those, I'll say, traditional Airbnbs and short-term accommodation.
Questions first?
The New South Wales State Government led the way with regulation of Airbnbs. They required both unhosted and hosted. Short-term accommodations were required to register. The Western Australian Government just followed recently in September last year. They required both unhosted and hosted to be there. I think we know we pay a fair amount to Tourism Whitsundays, and that even the people with hosted short-term accommodation get benefit out of the tourism visitation. I think following those statewide models and looking at getting a permit for both unhosted and hosted short-term accommodation will give us more revenue. It's a small fee they pay annually, plus it gives us accurate numbers on the number of these sort of operations that are going on within the region. As we work through with the department of everyone getting permitted, they just do annual renewals. At the moment, on one well-known site, it says there's 1,017 active. Some of them are in existing accommodation presences, but a very large number of those are both hosted and unhosted. I believe if we looked at this and kept home-based business as a permit requirement. I believe Councillor Simpson is under a permit because it is a current requirement of the local law. I think we could refer to him. It's not a difficult process. It's something that could be streamlined, and it's something that gives us revenue moving forward. So that would be my main consideration. The other thing while I'm up is I'll say this is a fair process to adjust this local law. We want people to abide by it. There's a number of things in this which I believe nobody can abide by, like including the code of conduct in every social media post. There's other things like a requirement to visit on site within 30 minutes of any complaint. We know from experience that most complaints are fixed with a phone call. So I'd be looking for direction today as whether we do just want to consider whether home-based business stays with a permit, or whether we'd be interested in, while we're this far through the process, that we look at, and I did send all these notes through to the Director. I haven't had feedback before today to clarify this, but I've laid out a few specific instances where some rewording of the local law could streamline it. I think we want everybody to be able to apply and work with the local law. I don't see someone not having a permit number on a sign they've already produced should be a breach of the local law. I don't believe most of them on their website say we may not be able to meet you in person, but if you don't meet every guest in person, you're in breach of our local law. So I'd like to have strong local laws where we need them, but have them achievable where every operator doesn't say, I can't do that, so I'm just going to act in breach of the local law. That will create more work for Director Julie's department than permitting home-based businesses. My say. Thank you.
Do you want to respond to any of that, Director?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm really confused, I've got to say it. I don't understand, Councillor, what your definition of posted is. I'm just a bit confused there. And I'll let you know why I'm a little bit confused there, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Whilst we're saying home-based business for short-term accommodation, okay, we're not saying home-based business for shared accommodation. Shared accommodation already sits into the local law, okay. Shared accommodation is like shared any part of the residence, common rooms, laundries, bathrooms, that sort of thing. So whilst there may be a planning approval for home-based business, okay, it may not capture it under the short-term accommodation. It'll more than likely capture it in like rooming accommodation and or shared facilities. So, but anyway, really the question was to you is, what do you mean by posted?
That's why, thank you. That's why I did move across to a home-based business, because the hosted accommodation is separate from rooming accommodation, the operations of a resort complex, things like that. So where people are not operating under a planning approval, where they're fitting with the home-based business, which does cover short-term accommodation. So we are talking about home-based business being out. I believe in the definitions of what we are currently excluding. Do you believe that rooming accommodation would also be something that would be advertised online?
100%. 100%. Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, 100%. Shared facilities accommodation, rooming accommodation. It's all on there. So, and that's fine if it's on. If it's advertised, and we pick it up. Okay, may not get the short-term accommodation, local law approval. Will require the shared facilities accommodation. So it's going to get picked up either way. So yeah, and I do believe that they're advertising on whatever platforms that they're using for. Yeah.
To respond. Go, Councillor Simpson.
Just to comment on that, with the shared accommodation, we have hundreds and hundreds around the region which people rent out their garages or their granny flats to unfortunate friends, family, whoever need be, and I'd hate to see this encompass a whole lot like this. We've already got a housing crisis, you're always bragging on about it, and I think you open up a real can of worms here.
That's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've been screaming out for this body of work. I think it's finally on the table. It's great. I think we're a step in the right direction. So I think Councillor Bowman, what you're talking about, the others, like that would take a fair bit of resources and time to bring all those things back. So I think we're just one step at a time. Let's get this done first, and then we can move on and see what's working and what's not after that.
Thank you. We have been operating under the local law as it is for almost 2 years now, over 2 years. So I don't see the urgency. I think there is a process in amending this. So if we've been operating under it for 2 years and we do go a little bit further to get it right, that is okay. I think to Councillor Simpson's point, there is short-term accommodation as a definition of under 28 days. So this doesn't affect anybody renting out a room. It doesn't affect long-term rental. That's what we know helps with our housing crisis. What I'm saying is we should be getting the local law's short-term accommodation permit on the people who are benefiting out of bringing tourists into their home for that sub 28 day stay, and obviously taking benefit out of the advertising that we do and adding to the resources and infrastructure that take the wear and tear from tourism. That's what I'm looking for us to target, is those people, the same people who are doing an unhosted Airbnb, that they go under the same permit regime. This is still separate from, as I said, separate wording within the local law. So that's where it is. Should I move to table for further development, and we put that to the vote and then see whether we do this development after this amendment or before?
Yeah, so it's just, Mr. Mayor, two things on that one. So the definition of short-term accommodation within the local law means the operation of premises used to provide accommodation of less than 3 consecutive months to tourists or travellers, whether or not the owner of the premise, whether the owner of the premises resides at the premises at the same time or not. So that's current, okay? This report today is basically the start of a process that takes a little bit of time, okay? So this is the start of the process. It still has to go out to consultation. It still has to do like the competition, all that sort of thing.
And just to be clear, this is supporting the other process where we approved around the planning schematics. Yeah.
Yes, and this is supporting what basically has been my understanding of what the councillors want, to move back to the actual, again I'll say, traditional Airbnb, short-term accommodation, not pick up every solitary, as Councillor Simpson said, impossible without another probably 6 to 8 staff to do that.
Yeah. Look, I think we've got to think about what we're ultimately trying to achieve here, and I think it is ultimately to eliminate widespread party houses, those types of things. I think what's here as far as the exceptions is quite reasonable, and I agree with Councillor Simpson that I think if we go, keeping home-based business in there are potentially some unintended consequences that don't fit that original intent of what we were trying to achieve. So I agree with you, Councillor Bowman, that we need to continue to work on this, but also support the director that we are in a process to change this, and we just want to make sure that we're unnecessarily penalising people that we don't need to. So, any further discussion on this one? Okay. All right, I'll put it to the vote that Council resolves that to adopt the subordinate local law amendment as per the report. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried 6-1. Okay, item 11.4, donation, sponsorship and in-kind requests, September 2024. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. Director, would you like to speak to this one?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I'll take the report as read. However, just for the media's interest, this is just for the month of September. 6 junior athlete grants have been approved to the value of $1,500. Donations, 4 approved totaling $32,200. And of course in one of those, it's way over what the, but it came to council for the Collinsville Teleconnect. In-kind donations approved totaling $1,129.90. No sponsorships for this month. It's generally coming towards the end of the year, that sort of thing happens. 8 sport and rec clubs granted $15,500, and 3 approvals for donations on council fees to the value of $1,047.
Any discussion or comment on today?
I'd just like to take the opportunity amongst all the other great junior athletes to give a special mention to Reid Martin from Bowen, from Port Denison Sailing Club. He's gone over to the International Eastern Seaboard Regatta. He got first place under 12 boys and best Australian performing sailor in an international regatta. So I just think that's a special call out for him and the support that he had not only from council but so many businesses around the region. And while I'm on the sailing, the Whitsunday Sailing Club has secured the 2025 Australian NACRA Catamaran Championships, and they put that in October to put us up in the low season. So I think it's great to see young sailors advancing on the world stage and also for us to pick up nationals.
One sailor to another, eh, Councillor?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on this one? No. The motion that council note the financial support to the various organisations as per the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 11.5, special projects grant applications.
Yeah, just prepare a prescribed conflict of interest in this. One of the applicants is a client of Mr. Hickman, just to try and manage any of them.
Thank you, Councillor Finlay. We're moving Councillor Wright. Okay, move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Clifford. The Director Julie, would you like to speak to this one?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So, councillors, this is just the Special Projects Club grant application, for round 1 for this financial year. Round 1 is from July to September. There's a number there of successful applicants. Bowen Woodworkers and Woodturners Association, $10,000. Whitsunday Songwriter Festival, $6,650. Bowen Historical Society and Museum, $6,336. Gloucester Sport and Rec Association, $7,174. Road Accident Action Group, $5,000. Crossbone Pony and Hat Club, $10,000. And within the body of the report, councillors, you'll have read how the funding that each of the organisations put in themselves, and the assessment comments in any of the areas where the full amount that has been applied for hasn't been granted. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any comments?
Quickly, just not to hold up too long, but I do see the Crossbone Pony Club in here. I know we've got Kelsey Creek construction and everything going on, tight deadlines and things like that. Have they got the new location to move to? Is that why this funding is being put forward?
Yes, you might want to answer that one.
Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I've taken on notice, Councillor Bowman. I do know that there are ongoing negotiations between the group and other landholders. I know the grant is to assist with the relocation, so whether it's formalised yet still needs to be clarified, but the intent is that they would be moving from the site that they're currently on.
Thank you.
Any further comment? Okay. The motion that council approve the payment of special projects grant round 1 to assist the following recipients is listed in the report. I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried 6-0. Please, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Finlay, back in. Welcome back, Councillor Finlay. Item 11.5 is carried. Okay, item 11.6, Bowen CBD Walking Network.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a motion on this one. that council adopt the Bowen CBD walking network plan and capital prioritisation of the high priority works, and B, that council produces the other 5 Whitsunday network walking plans supported by council resolution ordinary meeting 2021-12 8.6 at a minimum of 1 per financial year. I'd second it.
Second, Councillor Wright. Okay, Director Murphy, would you like to speak to this report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Council, this is a project that we're eventually taking into account all of our towns. These walking plans enable us to prioritise effort. It lets us overlay the walking plans against the principal cycleway networks, remembering the walking plans also factor in shade and the amenity of footpaths as well, so it also informs our street tree planning plans, like closing to our parks and gardens operations as well. And I'll take the report as read and answer any questions.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you, through the Mayor. Yeah, this is a great report. I think we're another step in the right direction of connecting our community, so I think that's great. Just on this, we're just on page 146 of the agenda. There's just a map, and I think it's just an error because it's got PCYC and Denison Sports Park. So I think they've got those 2 locations around the wrong way, but in other areas of the report it's correct. So I just wanted to flag that. Also, just to mention Thomas Street as well. So is Thomas Street actually, and Key Street, is that actually included in these plans for connecting? Because I know we do have a path down Front Beach that travels along Thomas Street, and then from there, does it connect onto Key Street? The only reason I'm mentioning this is because I have had a meeting with Parks and Gardens and a resident down there who would like to see sort of that area connected, and I was thinking it might be an opportunity to have Key Street included in our Front Beach master plan as well, because I'm just not sure where that stops and starts.
So through to Mr Mayor, if I refer councillors quickly to the map, which is figure 2.3, which is the entire.
So what page is that?
Page 142 of the council agenda. I think it's the clearest indication of the streets themselves. That would go to answer your question, Councillor Wright, as to the extent of Thomas Street in relation to this assessment. So it doesn't mean that we can't consider connecting to Key Street. It just means that when the assessment was done of the principal pedestrian network, it didn't factor in the calculation.
So it fell short of the 2Ks.
Yeah, so it's more about the nature of the use of that footpath in that location. I haven't mentioned the question well enough. My knowledge above.
On that, I think it is within 2Ks.
Yeah, so it's I think it's not only about every footpath within 2Ks being included, Councillor, through Mr Mayor. It's around those connections which effectively form your prime pedestrian network. So it's about the main connections in the town. So it's not about every footpath being part of the 2 kilometre network. It's around which footpaths become part of your pedestrian network for the purposes of connectivity under the criteria for the effectively the network plans.
Yeah, and that would probably just loop it and connect it all back in, because I know that particular area, the public do drive up on the grass and that sort of thing, and so whether we can include that in the foreshore master plan and have a look at the pathways and that sort of stuff, and maybe greening that area, putting in some parking, some on-street parking maybe.
Councillor Finn.
Yeah, for the Mayor, I'd like to thank the officers for putting this report up to Council consideration and no doubt adoption. It's really good. It actually outlines obviously all our footpath areas, and I've submitted to our Capital Works Director quite a few proposals or submissions for footpath works in the CBD area, and also just one recently just down towards the old Coke Works, Norris Street type of area as well. We also like to acknowledge that there's a lot of footpaths that have been in place over the number of years as well, and there is a footpath that extends all the way from Herbert Street all the way through to Woolworths out Soldiers Road, and that's beyond the CBD area. But there's been a lot of work in the past on these, and this will support us if there's, and obviously we're going to try to get as many grants as we can, and if there's any buckets of money out there that comes available for pathways and everything, and that's what this is all about. And yes, support Councillor Clay's motion to add the other towns in there as well, because obviously if there's any missing links discovered in those towns and things like that, then it gives us the supporting documentation for future grants, plus in our own bids for capital works as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have supported this network plan. I think we need to roll them out across the way. People can always say we want more. There is a prioritisation map in there where I think you find, a lot of these places are less than 1% expected usage. So that comes into it. I also will use divisions because Division 6, Division 2 have the same number of people, but Division 6 already has 15 kilometres more footpath than Division 2. And we're talking about upgrading existing footpaths as well as adding new. If you look at this $6.8 million plus $1.9 million in Muller's Lagoon plus $1.5 million in shared paths, I think we do need to look at the whole thing as a region and not just say let's do 10 million plus and not look at serious safety issues around the whole region. So that's my thing for advancing this, and obviously taking the safety and the priority of footpaths everywhere. I'm supporting this plan because the work's been put in and shown as the priority jobs.
Man, it's been noted this is the Bowen CBD report. Muller's Lagoon is not in the Bowen CBD.
And look, I think I'll just add there that we're here today to approve a plan. I'm very supportive of your amendment, Councillor Bowman, to adopt plans right throughout our region, but we're not here obviously approving individual paths and projects. So I think that's something that's important to know. Any further discussion on the item? Okay, the motion the council adopt the Bowen CBD walking network plan and capital prioritisation of high priority works, but also per the amendment produces the 5 Whitsunday walking network plans supported by the prior council resolution. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 11.7, amendment to trustee lease for Bowen Pastoral and Agricultural Association.
Mr. Mayor, just look there at Sky conflict of interest. The applicant is a client of SBD Partners, to which they manage and employee.
I was hoping you were going to move it, councillor.
I'd love to move.
I'll move it.
Move, councillor.
Unless the rules have changed from the LGAQ.
So move councillor Wright, second councillor Collins. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak
I
to this?
can talk to that, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the report is somewhat technical in nature. It seeks to rectify an anomaly in the current lease arrangement where one of the parcels of land is not contained in the lease document. That's been discovered through further review work being undertaken by council officers. It has been discussed with the Bowen Pastoral and Agricultural Society. It just seeks to extend the lease on the current terms to cover the total area that they've always assumed that they had rights over. Happy to take any other questions.
Any questions, comments for or against? Okay, the motion that council authorise the CEO to execute a lease on the same terms as the current lease expiring 22nd October 29 with Bowen Pastoral and Agricultural Association at the Bowen Showgrounds. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried 6-0. Please let councillor Finlay back in. Councillor Finlay. Item 11.7 was carried. Okay, item 11.8, council meeting dates 2025. Move Councillor Clifford. I'll second that one. Bradshaw, would you like to speak at all? No?
I don't need to, Mr Mayor, it's
No.
relatively
Okay.
short.
I have a really quick question.
Yep, certainly. That's good.
So at the 18th of June meeting, we would do our special meeting as well, or would there be another one for the budget?
I'd like to, Mr CEO?
Mr. Mayor, at this stage, the budget will be a special meeting. At this stage,
Okay.
we're hoping it'll be called around the same day as the 18th of June, but that really depends on how we go with the budget
Okay, that's
process
fine,
at
I
that
was
time.
just curious.
Anything further on that one? Okay. The motion that council adopt the following 2025 ordinary council meeting dates as per the report, I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 11.9, budget review 1, 2024. Moved Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Clifford. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to the report, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Presenting to Council today the first budget review for the 24-25 financial year. The primary focus of the initial budget review for the year is really to analyse and look at the capital expenditure and the carryover projects from the prior financial year included in June 2024. There are a number of changes where projects have been carried over, some projects pushed forward in relation to that. I'll try and touch on that a little bit further into the report. Significant point to note in presenting this report today that the operational budget is forecast to go into deficit through budget review 1. That's predominantly driven by the reduction in the federal government's financial assistance grant to council. So councillors may be aware that we talked at the end of the financial year about the timing of that payment, which was scheduled to be received last financial year, actually received in the first week of July, but it's also come in significantly less as a result of some adjustments to the overall calculations for the federal assistance grant. So that impact of $1 million just flows straight through to less revenue that we have for the financial year. We've looked to manage some other changes in the operations as we move through. So essentially we're seeing just under $1.2 million reduction in revenue and a just over $300,000 increase in the expenses associated with the operations of council. They are detailed in the report in terms of what makes up those individual changes and rearranges. Bearing in mind this is the first budget for the year, the forecast at this point is for a budget deficit, but we would be working hard through the financial year to manage the impacts through the operations of council. What you will see also in relation to the capital budget, so there is a movement upward in the capital budget from $97.3 million up to $106.7 million. So that movement has been detailed in attachments that have been provided to this report, but also were presented to council in a recent briefing session about where those changes and rearranges have been. The capital movements there do separate the work we do in relation to the remediation of landfills, because whilst that work is treated as capital, at the end of the day that work can't actually be classified as an asset into the balance sheet because it's about remediating past works and past activities under the accounting standards. The individual projects are shown there. I know the Director of Capital Delivery and Network Planning can answer those individual projects should there be questions on them. One thing to point out is that we have produced the forward budgets for the next 10 years as well in the requirements under the legislation. You will notice that whilst the current year has an operating deficit, it is forecast into the future that we will return and maintain a surplus over the forward years. The other parameters that we manage, that we've judged against in relation to the financial sustainability ratios are all within the bounds across the 10-year period, and that does demonstrate in the longer term the financial security of council, but it is to highlight that we have some impacts in the current operations early in this financial year that we're trying to manage as well. I'm happy to take any questions councillors might have on that, Mr. Mayor.
Questions?
Yeah, Mayor, obviously our first budget review for the quarter, and as the director said, it's still work in progress. Unfortunately, with that decrease of over $1 million in that financial assistance grant, that's a little bit uncalled for, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not sure if it's worth having a few deputations with the new local government minister. I've had some past history on that before, if you need support on that one. But anyway, it is what it is, and obviously we will work towards trying to balance that budget at the end of the year. I think it's also worth noting the amount of capital works funding that we're actually supposedly on the deliver this year, and in particular in relation to our road network of $65.8 million. That's a significant amount of money going into the upgrading and renewal of our roadworks program, and that's not including the maintenance either. So that's absolutely significant, and we look forward to getting the rubber on the road on those projects. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
I think one thing I'll just note, last week at the LGAQ conference, myself, the CEO, and the Deputy Mayor had the opportunity to meet with the grants body, the Grants Commission, is that correct? Yes. And obviously our main topic of discussion was around the financial assistance grants. So, look, we obviously raised issues around the uncertainty there as far as payment is concerned, and they were able to talk us through their model to a degree around how they've calculated that, and also I guess some reassurance that the adjustment that they've done under the current model is completed, and that will have some level of certainty up until the next review of the financial assistance grant. So, we've obviously still got issues around timing that we saw for that grant dropping, which we did raise those concerns, and then also some other general concerns around how our calculation is affected around population numbers and things like that. But I think it's probably safe to say that the general feedback obviously councils that are capable of generating their own revenue and looking after themselves were going to be treated less favourably than the ones that really struggled to survive. So it's a double-edged sword. The better you look after your books, the less you'll get in those federal assistance grants. So, but look, I take your note, Councillor Finlay. We obviously have a new local government minister. I did meet with the shadow minister as part of that process last week, really to initiate some general discussions around some of the things we face, and be happy to persecute that into the future. So, any further comment, Councillor Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Been through the budget review a fair bit. We did have a quick briefing on capital works. Haven't got the information on what was cancelled. I see a $2.3 million reduction, and specifically it comes down to Cannonvale Lakes Stage 4 being pushed back again, and $50,000 cut out of this year's expenditure. I think I've been down there with numerous people, CEO, directors, things like that. Heavily utilised park. I guess I can put this one on notice and follow it up, but I'll be pained to even support this amendment today, because even since before I was on council, I've watched these things just be kicked down the road and kicked down the road. I know it comes to prioritisation, but it's realistically our one and only park in Cannonvale for people and families to use, and I watch those jobs that haven't been completed since 2021 continue to move down, so I'll struggle with that one. But also there's a few shifts, but they're in outer years, so I'll take them up. But we've moved the new amenities at the Early Beach Lagoon back behind redoing the ones up near the markets. I just wonder why we would shut down the one and only operating toilet amenity block at Early Beach for renovations and not first construct the new one and then have something to fall back on while the other one's in construction. So I think that's in forward years, but it's that sort of thing that I'd like to go through in more detail. So I'll put it on there.
Would you like the CEO to address those two at all?
Can touch on now. I'm happy for you to take one notice and fire it up.
That's all right.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Just a quick shout out to Director Jason's team. I know it hasn't been an easy budget, and we are one, but thank you very much to you and your team for the position that we're in.
I'll make a comment. thanks, Jason, for your team and all your hard work. Although we end up with a deficit with the payment coming in July rather than June, someone else's books look a lot better because they withheld that money, and it just so happens it's an election year. But anyway, thanks.
Any further comments? Okay.
All right, the motion that, just go up for me, thanks, yeah, council resolve, in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, to revise the Whitsunday Council budget for the year 24-25, commonly known as BR1, as per what is noted in the report. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? The motion is carried 6-1.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't bring it in.
Item 11.10, monthly finance report. Move Councillor Finlay, second Councillor Wright. Director Bradshaw, would you like to speak to this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the financial reports for the period to 30th of September 24 demonstrate a current operating surplus of just over $29 million based on the actuals, noting that we have levied for the first half of the financial year. Generally, spend is on track, revenue is on track. We have been making a concerted effort to manage the employee costs, and they are sitting within budget at this point in time. Those early on-cost appropriations have been rectified, so the figures shown in there for September are relatively true. You will notice that there is an increase in the balance sheet worth of council, so net position at the end of September is just over $1.41 billion in terms of the asset base, and there's been continuing efforts from us to maximise the returns for funds invested, so that will help contribute to maintaining the operating position of council. Capital delivery, whilst is below what's forecast there, it is to be recognised that there's just over $31 million that's been committed into the expenditure there forward, which should give some, certainly some confidence to that delivery. And these figures are against the prior budget, not against the budget review that Council's just voted on for clarity. All of the ratios are within range in the current financial year. Council remains and is tracking in a relatively stable position, but we have forecast that we have work to do in managing what could be a budget deficit towards the end of the financial year. Mr. Mayor, happy to take questions on the other detail in the report. Take the report as read.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Jason, and you may want to take this question on notice, just in terms of the water usage, because the water meter accounts went out on the 21st of August. So due to the dryness of what we've experienced in Bowen this year, and some residents using a lot more water than what they normally do, just wondering how the water consumption notices compared to sort of budget.
Mr. Mayor, there is a bit of detail on that. I will take it on notice. We do have reporting. Director Gary may want to make a comment in relation to operational consumption, but I'll get the information in relation to billing.
Yeah, thank you.
Before the next meeting.
Councillor Barnum?
Thank you. Mr. Director, just flying this over into BR1, haven't been able to compare, but pretty much here we're sitting with all expenditures in the low 90s on employee costs, suppliers, pretty much total direct spend sitting at 93%. So with the flow over to the budget review, have we actually reduced our outgoings, or are we expected to catch up on this under expenditure?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will manage that throughout the year, Councillor Bowman, so it is something that is looked at on a month-by-month basis. Certainly, Council has payment runs to suppliers every month. It has fortnightly pays to employees, so we do monitor and manage those expenses on a monthly basis. We'll continue to track that information against the revised budget and certainly be making every effort to constrain the expenditure as best we can, knowing that we still have services to deliver to the community. We'll do that as best we can. The most an important milestone will be having a look at the financial position as at December and how the information flows through and is reported in the budget review too. Hopefully over that coming period we'll identify ways in which we can manage how that deficit might be reduced over the financial year, but it does require constant oversight by management right across the council in keeping a check on the budgets that they have been allocated.
Comments on the financial report?
Okay, the motion the council received the financial report and unaudited financial statements for the period ended 30 September 2024. I put to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously.
Okay, on the reports, item 12, late report items, we've got no late report items this meeting. Are we tracking the time? We'll start this. Yep. Okay. All right, item number 13, officers' reports, confidential matters. Can we have a mover, Councillor Clifford, the second, Councillor Wright. The council closed the meeting to the public at 10:21 a.m. in accordance with section 254J of the Local Government Regulations 2012 for closed meetings for the purpose of discussing the following items and the reasons for going into closed session. Item 13.1, Shoot Harbour Marine Terminal, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. Item 13.2, request to enter into infrastructure agreement with Paluma Industrial Proprietary Limited, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. Item 13.3, outstanding rates and charges, sale of land relating to grading concessions. Okay. Oh, yep, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. A mover to bring us into confidential, move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Bowman. We'll reopen the meeting at 11:36. Oh, yeah, I'll put that to the vote. Get it carried away. That's carried unanimously, and we'll open the meeting to the general public at 11:36 a.m.
Allowed to vote for confidential.
Vote to come out.
Still voting.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, item 13.1, Ship Harbour Marine Terminal. Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Finlay. The motion that Council authorise the CEO to enter into negotiations to execute a 1+1 licence to occupy agreement at Shute Harbour Marine Terminal. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Just check we've got our live stream back on, didn't we? Item 13.2, request to enter into infrastructure agreement with Paluma Industrial Proprietary Limited. Move Councillor Wright, second Councillor Finlay. The motion that Council delegates to the CEO to negotiate an infrastructure agreement with Paluma Industrial Proprietary Limited and delegates the CEO to negotiate a cost for Whitpro to connect water and sewer infrastructure. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 13.3, outstanding rates and charges, sale of land.
So moved.
Move Councillor Clifford, second Councillor Wright. The motion that Council commence the sale of land proceedings for the properties listed at Schedule 1 for overdue rates and charges in accordance with Section 140 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. I put to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to item number 14, matters of importance. Any councillors like to raise any matters of importance? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's more of a just a recognition. I just think it's there was a discussion held with the CEO just in regards to Bowen State High School students doing some hands-on experience, and I know a lot of the team that has come to fruition. And I got a text message from one of the teachers yesterday, and they were extremely happy. I think they had a productive meeting with a couple of the staff members, and they praised them. So one was Jason from HR and Drew from Parks and Gardens for that meeting. It's like delivering hands-on learning for kids. Like school doesn't fit with everyone, but hands-on experience is very important as well, and future partnerships as well. I think I can see the benefit in that. So. And a big thank you to Mark, manager of Parks and Gardens, who has done a lot of work to make this happen. I think sometimes it's the small things that matter the most. So yeah, just thank you very much for the team for working on this.
Anything else, councillors? Okay, we'll leave it at that. I'll declare the meeting closed at 11:39 a.m. Thank you everyone for your attendance.